Okay, we are in Chovel Levavot, Jewish of the Heart. Please subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, we are on, like I said, 777, number 5. We're still on the gate of self-accounting. God willing, we'll finish it today. And then we'll go into the next gate, which is the gate of abstinence. Yes, it's an interesting gate that we'll be dealing with. But let's finish off with self-accounting first. Is this accounting a constant? We remember he went through 30 steps of this review. He's gone through 30 types of self-accountings, and then he gave us the last class. He lived up to his name of giving Musar and told us, of course, we should do this. Now the question he's asking is this accounting a constant obligation, or is it obligatory only at certain times and not at others? In other words, how often do we have to do a self-analysis? Okay. So he says, I would say in response to this question that self-accounting is obligatory for a person in accordance with his power of intellect and excellence of mind at all times, at every moment, and if possible with every breath that he takes, so that he never be without the awe, fear, and shame before Hashem. May he be exalted who observes him continually. So his answer is, we never have a moment off from self-reflection as to why we're doing what we're doing. Okay, that's his bottom line.
You have to think about what you're doing.
You always have to think, and more than that, once you've done it, you have to examine it. Why did I do this? Why did I respond? Why, what was my point? If my point was to get closer to Hashem, okay, fine. Then it's good. But if my point was just to show how smart I am and to show how incorrect the other person is, so that's not right. So that's not. It's not right. I didn't want to get involved in the marital strife here. Okay, but that is something that we all have to think about. Why are we fighting about, in this case, about money? Okay. But you didn't know that you were coming into a marriage counseling class. Okay. So one may infer this duty from what Hashem has commanded, the king. And I'm talking about the Jewish king. He says the commandment is, and he shall have a copy of this Torah written for him on a scroll before the Kohanim and the Leviim, the priests and the Levites. It shall remain with him, and he shall read from it all the days of his life. So we all have to write our own Sefer Torah. We all have to write the Torah so that we will always have it with us. It's a command on every single Jew, a male Jew, excuse me. I'll be very specific on that. Every male Jew has to do that. So why? Because we have to constantly review it. Now, today, with the printing press, with computers and everything else, while we still have the mitzvah to write, we still have the commandment to write the Sefer Torah, the book of the Torah, it's not for the same reason anymore. We all can get a copy. We can download what we need. The point is, we're supposed to review it. It's not just enough to write it, but we're supposed to review it. But by the way, if I do have to write it, clearly I'm going to know it much better than if I just read it. Okay? So, but that was the commandment. So, but the king, in addition to the one he had to write an additional one that he would always have with him, because the king was subservient to God. The king is not, above everything. The king still has to deal with what the commandments say. He was bound by, if you will, the constitution of the Jewish people, and he wasn't above that constitution. So he had to follow that. So in order to do that, he had to have a copy by him for himself that he could constantly review. So then he says, furthermore, he said that this book of the Torah shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night. These words, and he continues to say, these words which I command you this day must be on your heart. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them be a frontlet in the center of your head. That's your tefillin. Write them on the doorposts of your house and of your gates. That's the mezuzot. And he emphasizes the matter of the commandment of the tzitzis, the sphinges, saying it should be a tassel, that you may look upon it and remember all the commandments. And thus you will remember to do all the commandments, all my commandments. So we see we have a lot of reminders to get us to do what we're supposed to do. If after all those reminders we still are ignoring it, well, we have a problem. Okay. And by the way, there's one thing that I think it still would apply, that every Jew that identifies as Jewish will put a mezuzah on the front door, at least the front door of the home, or the entrances to their home. They might put it on every room, but certainly to the front and or where people are entering. I think every Jew still does that. It used to be that every Jew did it. I'm guessing Reform still do it. I'm guessing conservatives still do it. That's what I'm saying. I think most Jews do
Those
it.
that still identify at least a minimal connection.
I think they still all do it. I think it's still a very big thing to do that. When you go to college or something else, you're not going to put a mezuzah up on your college dorm, but that's for different reasons. But I've never seen that done unless I'm in a totally Jewish dorm.
Or unless you're renting your own room, whatever it is, yeah? Or not?
Well, in the dorm, you are renting the room.
Huh?
In the dorms, you are renting your room. You're paying.
So I know if you're by yourself, you're not sharing.
So then you should put up a
I guess
mezuzah.
you would have to ask permission of the campus to put it on the outside door.
No, you just put it on. What do you mean the outside door?
The entry to your apartment or your
No,
dorm
you
room.
don't have to. You can put up with tape.
Oh,
You
double stick,
don't have
yeah.
to double
Then
stick
you're
tape.
not putting holes.
Yeah,
in
not
it.
to put a hole. No, you're right. You shouldn't paint in the walls.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be a good idea.
Yeah, yeah.
And by the way, in dorms, you should know they don't have wood; they have metal. You'd have to put a sheet metal screw in there. Dorms are prisons, basically. without walls. I mean, without bars. Right. That is. Those who lived in dorms will appreciate what I'm saying, but it's. I mean, we do get out when we want, but it's not the nicest accommodations. Okay, but so he said, what further kinds of encouragement towards self-accounting, which is part of the meaning of remembering the Creator, could there be that have already been urged upon us by Hashem? Accordingly, my brother, you should adopt the practice of holding yourself to an accounting before Hashem, may be exalted at all times and every moment. Now, we actually rule this. Rambam rules this. Maimonides says this is how we should do it every single day. Certainly, we should do it. And he says by the end of the day, before you go to sleep, you should review your day to say what you did good, what you did bad, and that which you did bad, you have to do repentance for, and make a decision you don't want to do that again, and you want to straighten out. So he's saying every single day, but he's saying every moment. Do not underestimate any good act that you perform for his sake, even if it's only for a few seconds, a few words, or a glance. For the smallest act on your part looms large in God's sight. The same applies to transgressions. Don't think anything is so light that you can get away with it. Everything has a consequence. That's the basic point here. The closest analogy to this is the way the movement of the sun, a distance of a cubit as perceived on earth, corresponds to an actual movement of many miles in the heavens. The same is true of the movement of the shadow on the astrolabe. The astrolabe was the instrument in which they would, like a sextant, was how they would measure the miles. They would measure the miles and the circumferences. It says it was like it was the old type of sextant. That sextant is what you call it. On the boats. Okay. So where did it go? Okay. But do not overestimate your good deeds, even if performed for God's sake. For if an accounting were made, the smallest of his favors toward you would outweigh many times over all the good work of all who dwell on the earth. So in other words, you can't take it, even though you may be a great person following every rule in the book, guess what? You still haven't made it. God's, by allowing us to breathe every second, God's already giving us more kindness than we deserve. That's what he's saying. Therefore, do not neglect to make an accounting of your relationship with your Creator, of the abounding favor and the many graces he bestows upon you each day. If your mind is not free for this during the day, then do it in the evening. And if you miss a day, catch up the next day. As the masters of our blessed memory say, repent one day before death. And of course, since we don't know which day we're going to die, it means repenting every single day. Okay? As is written, at all times let your garments be white, which means pure of sin. That's what Shlomo HaMelech was trying to say. So what actions should follow self-accounting? I say that this depends on the individual, on the purity of the substance of his soul and its ability to receive the lights of truth reaching it from Hashem, may he be exalted. For when the individual making this personal accounting attains purity of mind, understands the aim and intention of this accounting, and performing it directs his heart solely to Hashem, may he be exalted, he then finds favor before the Creator, may he be exalted, who will help him perform his commandments and will guide him by the light of truth, which dispels the way of doubt from his heart. He will then be illumined in the light of wisdom and radiant in the radiance of the intellect, his outer and inner life pure in devotion to Hashem. As Job said, I put on righteousness and it clothed me. Like a mantle or a turban, my justice enclothed me. Then his soul will be untroubled and his reflection undisturbed by worldly worries and attractions. Again, if I'm doing everything for Hashem and I see Hashem in everything, so then what's happening in the world, and God knows there's a lot going on in the world, we're not troubled by that anymore because we realize it's all part of the divine plan. Of course, we don't understand that divine plan. We will never understand that divine plan until the Mashiach comes and we see the whole video in front of us to say why everything was necessary. But for the bottom line is, we don't know it. So, but our choice is we can be troubled by it. I saw recently because we had the Pittsburgh killing. So one person, one rabbi actually, to put it into real context here, he said, I don't understand, why aren't we angry at God? He's angry at God right now. Okay, fine. Oh. Angry at God. So, I could ask a lot of questions on that. What, you're not angry for all the other things that happened, just this particular one, or in general you're angry? I mean, let's have a whole discussion here. But nonetheless, I didn't get involved in the discussion. I'm the lurker, whatever they call that. I'm the guy who just watches I don't want to call it stalker, thank you. Stalkers have a bad tag. I'm just a guy who reads stuff and observer, whatever. Observer.
What's the reaction after the Holocaust, World War II?
I don't know. I mean, that was one of my questions too. That would have been one of my questions to him. But even more than that, you could say, why there's continually bombs dropping on Israel today. Continually dropping. I mean, it's every single day. The Hamas drops bombs, flies bombs into Sderot. And if it weren't for the Iron Dome, a lot of them would get through. Thank God Hashem developed the Iron Dome, so He's protecting us. But and we think we're doing it, but it's really God. But nonetheless, why was he asking there? Why is he angry about that? I don't know. I mean, like I said, Pittsburgh woke up it really did wake up a lot of the Jews in America, because people say it can happen here too. Suddenly they realize it. I don't know why when the guy shot up the JCC, I'm not sure why that didn't wake them up. That was a couple of years ago.
Kansas City.
It could be Kansas City. And then there was also a black church. That was, why didn't that wake you up? I'm sure. There's hatred. There's so much hatred. I'm not sure why suddenly, this is bothering people, but okay. It's the newest one, I guess. But like I said, I've never seen that reaction for certain people that we're seeing now. I'm angry with God. Okay, be angry all you want, I guess. But his point is there's a divine plan. And if I do my self-accounting, so again, I don't understand the divine plan, and I don't understand the divine plan. Nobody knows why anybody has to be killed or whatever. I mean, this week in the news alone, you can get so depressed by reading the news, which is why I just try to stay away from it. But it's in Kroger. I said it before. In Kroger, there was one guy who went out from the back. He went out to the black guy in the back. He was racist. He went to the black guy in the back who was was his grandson. Shoots him point blank in the back of the head. The guy is dead. Meanwhile, the kid runs for the hills, and they didn't know where he went, and the whole place was locked down. Blah blah blah. And they got the guy, by the way. They didn't shoot him, but they got the shooter who killed somebody else on the way out. And it was just black for black. He was just shooting blacks. So I want to ask, are you angry about that too? Why not be angry about everything? I mean, because there's no rhyme or reason, seemingly, for any of these things that are being done right now, except that, the reason they'll give is, I hate these people. They're ruining my country. Okay, fine. But and then the call, of course, for the death penalty, which some people are saying, yeah, why not? Go for it. Let's kill the people who are doing this. Okay, we can have these arguments that go back and forth. But again, if you look at this, he's saying, let's look inside, because what our real goal is to get closer to Hashem, nothing else. So don't let the world distract you from that. Let's work on this. Let's get closer. That's what he's trying to say. So he will rejoice in the serving of the Creator. May he be exalted. Delight in what he glimpsed of the wisdom, secrets, and lights. And be happy for the knowledge he attained of the true nature of the lower world and the supernal world of God's goodly plan and rule, and the fulfillment of his decree in the lives of his creatures. As David, peace be upon him, said, let the righteous rejoice in God and take refuge in him. Let the heart of those who seek God rejoice. As it says, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, but he that glories shall glory in this, that he understands and knows me. This is the highest degree of knowledge of Hashem. May he be exalted. For one who truly knows him will devotedly serve and revere him, according to the knowledge of his heart and the innermost part, fulfilling the duties of the heart and limbs without trouble or toil, but with eagerness, drive, and enthusiasm. As David said, I hasten and do not delay to observe your commandments. Of such a person, the wise one said, happy is the man who finds wisdom. And it said, happy are they who keep judgment, who do what is right at all times. May Hashem in his mercy set among them and admit us into their circles. Amen. Okay, so that's the 8th gate. And now we start with abstinence. When people hear of abstinence, of course, they think of a whole bunch of different things, aesthetics, walking around, let's give up this world, let's do what we have to do, basically become a monk or a priest or a nun, okay? That's not the Jewish way, but that's what people think of when you hear abstinence. Okay? So he's going to explore this. She says, having discussed in the previous gate, namely the gate of obligation of self-accounting, and since abstaining from the world is one of the aspects contemplated in such an accounting, I think it proper to follow with an explanation of the different kinds of abstinence and the special character of the kind obligatory for the adherence of Torah, for such abstinence is vital to the religion and to the world, and is a source of tranquility for soul and body in both worlds.
What word is he translating as a religion?
Anshe Torah, the men of the Torah.
Oh, really? How does he get?
How does the? I'm not sure what he's asking. Oh, that would be adherence to the Torah. So vital to Bavor Masha years, but B'Tanaka Torah. That's all. He's calling it to Kanat Torah, the decrees of the Torah.
Oh, okay. So this is a modern English translation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we have no such word as religion in Hebrew. Yeah? Biblical Hebrew.
What does religion mean?
I believe, I had this discussion with my cousin I met the other day. We were talking about, what is a religion? And he was talking to, I think it was his son's college professor, that said Judaism is not a religion. So we go back to, way of life, and there was no such word as we, equivalent exactly.
I heard this, recently I heard this discussion. Oh,
you and I probably talked
about
it.
No. I heard this. I went on, what was I? I was looking up something. I went to some sort of website and I forget. Oh, Patreon. I went to Patreon. Why did I go to Patreon? You know what Patreon is? Patreon is, I have a whole bunch of 715, okay, videos on YouTube. Okay? Wow. So I don't get paid for all my videos on YouTube. But if I open up a Patreon account and I get all the millions and millions of people who are watching these videos, they can donate to my cause. And so I can get millions and millions of dollars every month from these millions and millions of people who give you $1 a month. And that's Patreon. So what they do is they have these artists who go up and they make the whole page, blah, blah, blah. It's free to sign up, I guess. And then they try to sell their page. They want you, the customer, to give them, and they have a goal, I guess, of whatever, $10,000 a month, $1,000 a month, $500 a month. They have a whole sob story. Okay, so whatever it is. So one of the things was I was looking up. Okay, let's see Judaism. So I typed in Judaism, and I get this thing. Historical Judaism, whatever it was. He's looking at the history, and he's also said, that's why I heard it, that Judaism is not a religion. I was like, oh, right. I was like, whoa, it's a way of people, blah, blah, blah. I was listening to this. Okay.
In biblical times, there was Jews and there was Gentiles. And the Gentiles are all pagans back in those days.
Right. So the question you have to ask is, and I guess this was just definitional, what does religion mean? It's just a set of beliefs. That's how you translate religion?
It's something that binds you back to God.
That's the definition?
From the Latin.
Okay. So something binds you back to God. So to say that Judaism is not a religion is foolish.
I think in today's parlance, I would say we could definitely say it's a religion.
Right.
In ancient biblical times.
Well, we didn't have that. It was a way it's still the concept's the same. We always want to get close to God. Yeah. So the way we did this was through the Torah. So again, we're just using the modern day word religion, that's the point. If I have the adherents to Torah are people who have followed the obligations. So now the question is an obligation to abstain from the world or abstain from something in the world? The obvious answer is yes, right? I have to eat kosher. I have to do certain things. I can't work on Shabbos. So I'm abstaining from the busiest shopping day. I'm abstaining from that day and not going out shopping and not working. And as a rabbi, I have to work. But I always say when I retire, I'll become observant of the Sabbath again. But until that point, I have to work on the Sabbath. Okay. But whatever. But the point is that we do abstain. It's clear that we do abstain. But to what extent do we abstain? Okay.
In other words, he's saying that abstinence is a method of staying on the path.
Right,
you have to abstain.
Right, so it's vital. It's going to be vital to the way the decrees of the Torah and the world as a source for tranquility for soul and body in both worlds. So he says, it is my task to explain the following 7 aspects of abstinence. Number 1, what is general abstinence and why do people need it? Number 2, the definitions of special abstinence and why is it necessary for the adherence of Torah? Number 3, into how many classes are those who withdraw into abstinence divided? Number 4, an elaboration of the conditions of abstinence. Number 5, forms of abstinence that are in accord with our Torah. Number 6, mention of abstinence in the Torah and the books of the prophets. And finally, number 7, the difference between our ancients and forefathers on the one hand and ourselves on the other in regard to it. So that's going to be what he's going to do in this gate.
So ourselves, and so he's talking about 1,000 years ago. So
right.
You already had other very specific religions 1,000 years ago.
In his point, he had Christianity.
Yeah.
He probably also had
Islam.
Probably.
So that religion's all man-made. It's
just now a word to describe.
The word religion?
Yeah, for every different religion, you know what I mean?
So that's why I said, Bill said is the definition is it's getting closer to God, right?
Something interesting.
I just want to say,
yes.
Okay.
The word obligation and the word religion come from exactly the same base. The ligo is the bind.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And so an obligation binds you together, a religion binds you back together.
Okay.
Really,
So they're what we call doublets in etymology.
Right. So, like I said, if we're looking for the word religion, the word religion, that's a relatively late word. Okay, but basically everybody becomes a system of belief to get me to that point of getting close to God. Now, I'm not going to argue on, we know of three major religions, namely us, the Christians, and Christianity in general, all the denominations under that umbrella group, and Muslim, again, all their denominations under that umbrella group. You also have Buddha, which would be probably, I don't know enough about it, but they seem to have multiple gods. So they'll be under polytheism, which would get you into Wiccans and everybody else under paganism. And Hindu, again, they think that the cows are God. So I'm guessing that would be, if I'm understanding that correctly, then they're all pagans. They would be under the general thing of pagan. Okay, I'm not sure what pagan means, but that's, and that again, etymologically, I'm not sure what it means. We know what it means today. But so you have different umbrella groups, and they would all say that their system, including, by the way, Satanism. They'd also religion. Okay, let's be honest with that. So they'd all, and I can't forget Scientologists. Okay, they also declare themselves a religion. Okay, so why? Because they have a system of beliefs that supposedly get them closer to whatever the ineffable or the infinite is for them. Okay, now everything except I know the world's going to come down on me for this. The millions and millions of people watching. Obviously, we believe the only true religion is Judaism. And with that, of course, you have B'nai Noach and Judaism, no problem. And that came from God at Mount Sinai, in front of 3 million people. Okay, that's written down. Talk about creating a bad situation. You're saying everybody was there. Every other religion that I know of, not that I've explored many of them, but they all were to one person. Christianity was to one person. Islam was to one person. Mormon, which is really Christianity. All the Christians don't like to say that Mormons are Christians. Okay, but they also have Joe Smith. One guy comes to Buddha. I don't know what Buddha is, but it's also one guy though. So it's all the one guys there. They're not. It's not mass revelations. So that we're the only ones who claim, as far as I know, the only ones who claim mass revelations. That is still here to talk about it, by the way. That's what I'm going to, because I know people always want to pick on the Mayans. Guess what? They're not here. They're not here to defend themselves. They're not here. I don't know what they said. I don't have the history. But even if they said it was mass revelation, guess what? They're not here. We're the only ones who have survived through everybody. Look in the back, you'll see the picture, through everything. We're the only ones who have survived. And it's not because of our great numbers. We have the least amount of numbers. We always did, and that's all it is. So it's just amazing. But that, again, so I'm just getting to it. The word religion is certainly man-made, but the concept is not. The concept is just taking what we already have and putting a label on it. So they get a big umbrella group. We're all religions. And so people want to say, so we're all equal. The answer is no. Sorry. We're not all equal. As a matter of fact, everybody believes they're right and the other guy is wrong. So, and by the way, only one can be right. If there's only one God, so either God said this or God said that. Leave me alone. It's not. I know people don't like to hear that, but it's just logical after a while. If I have, it's like trying to say that the Big Bang and religion agree. I can fit them in. I can push them together to agree, but in reality they don't. Scientific explanation of Big Bang and religion says this is what's going on, and God's a creator, and science is saying there is no creator. There was no design, it was a mistake. Those two ideas cannot mesh. I can mesh them, but they really don't mesh. It's like putting a square into a square peg into a round hole. But that's all I'm doing, because I want to show I can. But in reality, why bother? I know what I believe. I can use their stuff to understand certain things in the world, but in the bottom line, I think that their beginning point is wrong. I don't accept their beginning point. I accept what we say about the sun, that it goes around that we go around the sun, sorry. I accept that, how the solar system supposedly works. Although, you know what? I'm not above the solar system to see. So everything's moving, but I'm not going to say that science is wrong. I'm not going to say that the world is flat. Okay? I'm not going to do all these things that people would want to do based upon foolishness. I'm willing, I see the horizon, I see a ball. I'm willing to say this round, and I know I'm not going to fall off. We already proved that. Okay? And that's how Chris got here in the first place. So he didn't fall off there. So we can assume that it must be round. Okay, great. And I actually believe people went to the moon too. So, with all that. So all these theories that people want to say. But that's what I'm saying about religion. The word, I don't know. But the concept is, again, I'm trying to get close to God. So now we go on and we say, what is the essence of general abstinence? Why do people need it? So he said, I say in response that abstinence is a term with many connotations. The term is a well-known expression, but its real meaning is hidden and obscure. When the clay is removed and the seal broken, its hidden meaning is revealed and its purpose becomes apparent. The plain meaning of abstinence is bridling selfish desire and voluntarily refraining on account of some cause that prescribes this, from something that is in your power and that you have the opportunity to do. It has been said that one who abstains is one who has the power and does not use it. That's the definition he's using for abstaining from something. I am able to do it, and I choose not to. Okay? Now, the cause that prescribes the bridling of selfish desire can be divided into two parts. One part applies generally to all people and many other living creatures. The other is special to the people who are adherents to the Torah. General abstinence is practiced to promote the health of our bodies and improve our welfare. Some examples are the regulations of the kings in governing the nations, the regimen prescribed by physicians for the healthy as well as for the sick, and the self-control exerted by every intelligent person in restraining his desire in regard to food and drink, sexual relations, clothing, speech, and other activities and pleasures. Okay, so again, we all abstain from something. Nobody is totally indulgent on themselves. I don't think they are. Maybe there are people, I'm not sure. But I would guess that most people have some time they say to themselves, no. Okay? When you have to exercise, and it's a pain in the neck, but we all have to do something, right? So that is part of when we're saying, okay, we're not going to something else. We're going to refrain from that, and we're going to start doing this. Or we have the opportunity to eat what we want, and we abstain from that because we say it's not good for us. Okay? And we all know what's good and bad for us. It's just that we have to decide what we want. It's a drug. I remember watching a commercial one time. In those days, you had to watch commercials. Okay? Today, there's nobody. I don't know. Do you guys know what commercials are? You don't know what commercials are, do you? No. You do? Okay. YouTube, there's YouTube commercials?
You see TV commercials when we go on vacation. Different things.
Okay, fine. But most people, because they're on the tube or whatever else, nobody knows. Or Netflix, they don't even know commercials. Yeah, but there was a commercial I remember seeing or hearing on the radio, whatever it was, and it was advertising a stomach medicine for those who are lactose intolerant. And said, so you want to have pizza? We can give you this drug where you can take this drug a half hour before you eat pizza, and you too can have pizza. Now, why wouldn't a person who's lactose intolerant, by the way, when they would have the pizza, what would happen? They would get very sick. Okay? So what this guy is saying, don't worry, we'll make you feel good for it. You can indulge yourself. Okay? And I was thinking, are you insane? Why would you do that to yourself? You're putting a drug into your system to indulge. Now, I openly admit, when I pass some pizza stores and I smell the pizza, and it's not kosher place I'm passing, obviously here aren't there. I have a desire, but you know what? God's more important than that piece of pizza. So I abstain from that piece of pizza. Okay? And that's what it has to be. We all have to make our decisions when we're going to abstain. That's a general abstaining. In other words, I know I shouldn't have certain foods, so I don't have those foods. I abstain from. That's part number one. And also, I should stay away from certain speech. Apparently, people haven't learned to do that these days. And also clothing. My God, I walk down the street sometime and I see what people are wearing, and I'm thinking, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please look at yourself in the mirror. Okay, pull your pants up, or put your clothes on. Get off the people walking around with ripped clothes that they bought from. I remember one time I was in the mall when I was in Maine. I went to the mall because I had to get glasses or something. And I had to kill an hour in the mall because I had to wait for the glasses to be done because I didn't want to drive back and forth. It wasn't worth my time. So I saw Old Navy. That's what it showed the place. Old Navy. And I walked in. And of course, by the way, just a bit of halacha here. When they walked in, so the people immediately surround you. Can I help you? Okay. So they want to make a sale. And I said, no, thank you. I'm just looking. I'm not interested in buying. I'm just looking. You should say that because otherwise they keep holding around you and they get their hopes up. This way they just leave you alone and you can walk fine. And it's also, you should do that when you go to the store. Halachically, if you're not going to buy, you say, I'm just here just to kill some time. Please don't pay attention to me. Just go back to what you're doing. Okay. But, so what happened was I was walking around and I see torn jeans, what we used in the old days called dungarees, worn out, looked like worn out and torn. Literally torn
like across the knees.
It was crazy. And $50. I was thinking, whoa! If I would have known what I could get from my old clothes, I by the way tore because I used them
to wear a couple.
Oh, I had them for years, and I would have known. My mother would have been embarrassed if I would have walked around like that. And yet they're selling these things. I'm thinking, come on, what's the fashion statement here? It's horrible, but again, you want them to. What are you doing? Why are you buying torn clothes? Why? And for the women, why are you wearing miniskirts? Why are you doing these things to yourself? You don't want to be objectified. So wear the proper clothes. And you said pull your pants up. Fine, same sort of thing. You don't want to be called a criminal. Pull your pants up. Actually, they're not pulling their pants up because I found out if you go to the stores that's how they're made. Yeah, the underwear is part of the pants.
Oh, really?
I've seen some pants like that.
I didn't know that.
Not all of them.
I was here in South Bend.
That's funny.
I was here in South Bend and I saw that and I said, this is unbelievable. They make it it's not like this falling down. That's how they make the pants.
Wow.
And I was thinking, that is the craziest style. But somebody's making money off that. Somebody makes.
I will help you.
Right. And so that means the guy couldn't wear his own underwear and let the pants fall. Okay, I don't know. That's a lot of money to be spending on that. I don't think it's a great look, but okay, fine. But that's what it is. You're looking at that, and again, you're thinking of how you speak, and you're looking at your pleasures. Why am I doing this? Okay, so he says special abstinence is a regimen prescribed by the Torah and the intellect for the welfare of our souls in the next world, as I'll explain with Hashem himself. Now, the need for general abstinence. The multidimensional need for general abstinence is the result of what we discussed in the third gate of this book. The fact that the Creator's purpose in creating the human species was to discipline the soul and to try it in this world so that it would be purified and attain the level of the holy angels. As it says, if you walk in my ways and keep my service, I will let you walk among those who stand here. Thus, divine wisdom dictated that souls be tested by union with earthly bodies that have the capacity for growth and increase through foods suited to them. Really, again, if you keep that goal in mind, you beat most people. That's what we're supposed to be doing here. Again, what God wants us to do is through these bodies, he wants us to discipline the soul so they can be purified and attain the level of angels. And you do that by following the law and not by your desires. The Creator may be exalted, fused to the human soul, an appetitive faculty by which, as long as the two were joined together, the soul would yearn for the sustenance provided for in this world, so that it would continue to exist and flourish. He also implanted in human beings another faculty, which makes them long for sexual relations, so that they propagate the species in this world. That's why we have that desire, okay, to have children. So the Creator may be exalted, gave man as his reward for these functions pleasure in them. He appointed instinct to exert influence over him, to urge him to eat, drink, have sexual relations, and all pleasures and leisure upon which his spiritual well-being depends, as it says.
Physical.
What did I say?
Physical.
What did I say?
Spiritual.
I'm sorry. See that? I'm in the wrong place. Okay. Which is, okay. Which his physical well-being depends, as it says, he also set the world in their heart. So God was very nice to us, unlike the snake. Unlike the snake, which all it tastes, according to the story in Genesis, all the snake will taste is the dirt, the taste of dirt, no matter what he eats. We all have, I don't know if dogs have this. I guess dogs and cats do, because if they get the wrong food, they go like this. They don't like it. So I'm guessing they have taste buds, right?
They want people food.
Right, but I noticed that if you give them the wrong, they'll walk away from it.
Yeah,
So I'm guessing they also have taste buds, okay, unlike the other things. So, but God gave us the reward of when we're doing all these things, so we're going to have pleasure. Now, what happens, of course, if I have pleasure in them, there's the other side to that. Once I get pleasure, I'm not doing it for the obligation anymore. Now I'm doing it because of the pleasure that I get. So now, that's why it's so difficult to observe the commandments sometimes, because am I doing it for God, or am I doing it for myself? Okay, that's why in Hebrew would say you can be a manavel bereshut haTorah. You can be disgusting with the permission of the Torah. In other words, I can go to a simcha, I can go to a nice wedding. If for a Jewish wedding, I assume non-Jews have the same thing, but I don't know. But we have what we call the shmog before the wedding. Before the wedding, in the non-Jewish weddings, you have what do you call it? What do we call a shmog?
Buffet of food.
A buffet.
Some do.
Spread before the actual.
Okay. Ours.
Under the budget.
Okay, but our buffet for the most part is a meal in its own.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many you could make a whole dinner.
Yeah. It's easy. That's why I think the reason they do that, by the way, is also just because it's much easier. Some people leave right after the wedding, so it's a long trip. So I think that's really why it started. And also, once I can invite you to the shmor, but I don't have to invite you to the meal. So it cuts down expense on the other side. So, there could be that there's two elements to that. I'm not sure how it became into being, but the point is that you can go there and you can have the whole thing. And I mean, you're stuffing your face if you want, and you can go as many times as you want to. So, so some people they eat for the week. And that's what you call being disgusting with the permission of the Torah. Because what you did was, you said the proper blessings, you did everything else, but you really did much more than you were going to. Okay?
Then you eat the
Because
big meal
what is an
afterwards.
appetizer for? What's an appetizer for? To whet your appetite.
Yeah.
That's all it's supposed to be. To whet your appetite for the full meal. And then you're supposed to join the full meal. Not what we do. And again, when people go crazy, they go crazy.
Yeah.
And you know what it's like? In the old days, I assume they still have these things, all you can eat buffets. Right? Yeah. So I remember
the Indian restaurant in St. Louis,
all you can eat buffet. So they'll charge you $20. They'll always make money on these things, by the way. But they'll charge you $20, but people will fast the entire day knowing that they're going to go, because they want to get their $20 worth, or their $50, whatever they're spending. They want to get that. And so they go beyond what they normally would eat. Normally we have what? You ever go to barbecue? what happens? So you have a barbecue and they're making your hamburger and your chicken and your hot dogs and whatever else you're going to make, right? So suddenly, now if you were home, you would have had 2 hamburgers tops, okay? And you probably wouldn't have anything else, okay?
Yeah.
You go to a barbecue, and next thing you know, you're working on your 3rd or 4th hamburger. You think, the hot dog looks good. Why not the chicken? And by the way, I have to have the corn, and I have to have the cake because, again, you paid for it. Why should I have it? You invited me. I assume you want me to eat everything that you want to put out there. And salads, that's for women food. But when it comes to this, again, what's going on there is you allowed your selfish desire to take over, and the Torah is saying, no, you shouldn't be doing that. It's wrong to do that. We do it, and that's what he's saying. You have to start thinking, what are you doing? What is your goal in life? If your goal in life is to have the soul be able to become like an angel, this isn't the correct method. Even though you said all your blessings, and you didn't, hopefully you didn't eat so much that you are going to vomit, which would have been really a disgusting situation. But you overstuffed yourself. Again, that's not what the Torah is calling for. So that's why he's saying you have to abstain from all that. Let me just see if I can get, okay, let me just finish this off. Okay. So he said, the Creator may be exalted, gave man as his... I said that. Sorry. When, however, instinct overpowered the intellect, and the soul was drawn to the former, man's soul inclined to excesses, that's what I was talking about, that bring about the deterioration of his condition and destruction of his body. As a result, he came to need the quality of abstinence from pleasure and leisure, so as to achieve a proper balance in his condition and a proper ordering of his affairs in this world by taking only the necessary minimum. In doing so, he would be worthy of praise. As it says, good is the man who is generous and lends, who conducts his affairs with judgment. Now, since it is necessary for man to practice general abstinence, as this is vital to him in this world, that he take from it only what is needed, it follows that there have to be in this world complete ascetics who separate and detach themselves from worldly pursuits, so that all kinds of people may learn abstinence from them, each kind according to its needs and in accordance with its conduct and character. He'll develop that as we go on. Okay, so it would not be good for the people, for the world, if all people were to practice asceticism like these ascetics, for this would lead to a breakdown in the building of society and to the end of procreation. As Scripture has said, he did not create it to be an empty void. He formed it to be inhabited. Abstinence is just one of the pillars of the world. People need it, just as they need the other disciplines and trades. Now, in each of these disciplines and trades, there are people who are specialists. In this way, all others may benefit from them. Each group of people taking from them according to its needs and as befits it. It would not be good for the world if everyone specialized in the same discipline or trade. For the perfection of the world order is in all of them together. As the wise one, King Solomon, said, he has made everything right in its time. There is a time for everything, a moment for all concerns under the heaven. That was a song from
Time for it.
Yeah, time. I forget who sang it.
Turn.
Right. Okay. Preceding discussion, it clarifies the meaning of general abstinence and the need people have for it, namely as a means of the well ordering of their affairs in this world. So that's how he's starting off with abstinence. Again, he's going to develop this very much as we continue on.
All right.